Today, I'm going to show you how to make your own hittable crate inside of UEFN. We're going to be adding 3 things. First is making a trigger every single time a player hits it. Second is making it shrink and play an animation. The third is playing a VFX at the crate's location. But first, I want to introduce Map Academy's Tycoon 3.0. It is easily the best, most customizable, and easiest to set up Tycoon pack you can find. On top of having a long list of upgrades, it introduces new devices, mechanics, and assets. We have also created a brand new channel to contain all of the various setup and showcase videos that we provide, so that you can know exactly what you're getting when you sign up for Map Academy. But make sure to sign up fast, as only the next 10 users who sign up using promo code Tycoon3 will get 20% off of their first order. Anyways, let's get right back into the video. So to get started, the first thing we're going to do is create our verse file. So go to the Verse Explorer, hit right click on your project name, and hit Add New Verse File to Project. Here, I'm just going to call this Crate Manager and then hit Create. Once this is created, go ahead and double click to open it up. In this, the first thing we're going to need is a prop for our actual crate. So I'll go ahead and make an editable crate prop, and it's going to be of type creative prop, which is equal to a creative prop. The next thing we're going to need is a prop manipulator to track when the crate is hit. So I'll make an editable prop manip, and it's going to be a prop manipulator device. You do that just like so. And then I'm also going to add a reward trigger that's going to trigger for the player whenever they actually hit the crate and gain the reward. So I'll call this a trigger device. This is what you'll use to grant other things, like if you want to grant gold or a custom resource, you would do it off of this trigger. So now with our devices available, we'll first go ahead and on begin, we want to track when the crate is hit. So I'll say prop manipulator. And if we go into our prop manipulator device, you'll see that we have a damaged event. So I'll go back and put .damaged event. And then whenever this damage event gets signaled, I want to subscribe to a function that I'm going to call on hit. Then down here, I'll create this function and it'll take an agent, because if we go to our damaged event here, you'll see it listens for an agent. And then whenever the crate is hit, we want the reward trigger to trigger for the agent, just like so. So now whenever the prop manipulator sends this damaged event, which will be whenever the player hits the prop, the trigger will be triggered for the player. The next thing I'm going to do is actually add a animation that'll shrink the crate a little bit every single time it's hit. So under the onHit function, I'm going to spawn another function like so. So I'll spawn play animation. We don't need to send it anything, and then we'll go ahead and create that function. So we'll call it play animation. Make sure that it suspends, because we'll need to use move to later, which requires suspending. And then in this function, we want to first move the prop to the same location, except for with a decreased scale. And then we want to move it back to its original scale. I'm going to be using move to for this, but I would recommend to play this animation that you use the animation controller in verse, but to save time, I'm just going to be using move to. The animation controller will make the animation a little smoother, but it'll take some more time to set up. So to actually use move to, first I'm going to go ahead and get the crate position. So let's just say crate position is equal to our crate prop dot get transform dot translation. Oops, spelled that wrong. Translation. And then we also want to go ahead and get the rotation. So I'll say crate rotation. And then instead of getting the translation from this transform, we're going to get the rotation. And then we're going to actually want to scale the prop down and move it. So we will say crate prop dot move to. And then if we look at move to in Fortnite, so we'll just go ahead and Control F, search for move to. You'll see we have 2 options for move to. One takes a vector, a rotation, and a time, and then the other one takes a transform and a time. We're going to use the one that takes a transform because we want to also be able to control the scale of the crate or the prop. So let's go back, and to create a transform, we first have to just make sure that they know it's a transform by doing this. And then inside of this transform, we have 3 different values. But before we do that, let's go ahead and add spatial math, just like so. Then let's go ahead and define our three values. So the first is going to be the translation, which is going to be equal to our crate position. Then we need our rotation, which is going to be equal to our crate rotation. Then last, we need our scale, which is going to be equal to a vector 3, where our x is going to be equal to, this is how small we want the crate to shrink down to. So I'll just say 0.8, y is equal to 0.8, and z is equal to 0.8. So it'll shrink in every axis. And then we also need a time. So if I put a comma after our transform, we also need the time. So I'll just say 0.2. I did realize I put these in the wrong brackets. So I'll just go ahead and copy that and paste it here. There we go. Now it's going to shrink the crate down whenever it's hit, down to the scale 0.8. After this is completed, we're just going to go ahead and duplicate this, except we want it to grow back to its original size. So I'll change all of these to 1.0. The other issue that we'll run into, though, with this is that if the player hits the crate twice in succession, then the animation will glitch because this will both try to play twice at the same time on the same prop. So we need to make sure that doesn't happen. To do this, I'm just going to create a logic variable that I'm going to call isAnimating, and it's type logic, and at first we're going to set it equal to false. So whenever this animation plays, we'll first see if it's already animating. So if isAnimating question mark, and we want to only do this if it's not animating, so I'll add a not before this, and then hit tab so that all of this is underneath this section. So whenever this function is called, it's first going to check if it's animating, and if it's not animating, then before we actually play the animation, we want to set isAnimating equal to true, so that next time it's hit, it will not work. And then whenever it's done animating, which will be after it shrinks the prop and then grows the prop, we want to reset isAnimating to false. Now with this, let's go ahead and test all of this out in game. So I'll close out of this, minimize, hit verse, build verse code, go to my content browser. In this, I have a crate manager. In the crate manager, I'm going to first create a prop. So to do this, I'll hit right click, go to blueprint class, then create a building prop. Here, I'm just going to call this our crate prop, and then open it up. In this blueprint, I'm going to add a cube, and this is what I'm going to be using for my prop. So I'm going to hit compile, save, and then drag it into the play space, and go ahead and position this. With this created, I can go ahead and select it in my device. Then we need a prop manipulator, so I'll search for a prop manipulator device, then drag it into the play space. In this, I'll scroll down until you see affect all objects in a zone, turn this on, and then change all the values to 0.1, then place this inside of my crate. That's it for the prop manipulator, so let's go ahead and select that. Last, we have our reward trigger, so I'll just search for a trigger device. Then I'll drag it into the play space, and then select it in my device. Now, just so I can hit this crate, I'll just go ahead and go into my island settings, and search for pickaxe and ensure that start with pickaxe is turned on. Then I will launch session to test it out. All right, now in game, if I go over here and press this crate, you'll see it plays an animation and it triggers this trigger. There's one more thing that I plan to add though, and that is a VFX that'll appear for the crate. So if I end the game and go back to my VS Code, let's go ahead and add a VFX spawner. And we'll call this a VFX spawner device, just like so. Then whenever the crate is hit, we're going to spawn another function. So I'll call this play VFX. Then I'm going to create this function down here. I'll call it the play VFX and make sure it's suspending and then of type void. So in this, I'm going to add our VFX spawner and I'm going to enable it. Or actually, if you look in the VFX spawner, there's the restart event. So I'll do that. I'll go ahead and restart it. And then I will sleep for 0.1. And then I will disable the VFX. So what this will do is every single time the crate is hit, it's going to call this function. It's going to restart the VFX, sleep for 0.1 second, and then disable the VFX. This will make the VFX appear and stop it from continually appearing. So if I go ahead and minimize this, hit verse build verse code. Then you'll see in my device, I now have the option for a VFX spawner. So if I go to my content browser and search for a VFX spawner and drag it into the play space, I'm going to place this inside of my crate here. I'm going to go ahead and change the effect type to burst and go ahead and change this to something like, an explosion. Then I'm going to scroll down and disable clear particles on disable. Then I'm going to select this in my device. If you want to use a custom effect, you'll want to go back into this VFX spawner, change the custom visual effect override, and then change the effect here. I'm going to disable that and then go ahead and push changes. So now in game, whenever I hit the crate, the explosion will appear just like so. And that's it for how to create your own hittable crate inside of UEFN. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Also, if you have any video ideas, please leave them in my Discord in the tutorial request channel. Every week before I make a tutorial, I make sure to look at all of your guys' requests. And actually, this week's video was created from this request right here. Anyways, thanks again for watching and see you guys in the next one.